Awesome. Today we are joined by Philip Van Drunen. Welcome to the Peking Podcast. Philip is the founder of multiple companies and an avid hobbyist. So very excited to learn more about you, Philip. Give us a quick intro. Who are you? Where are you from? And how did you get into what you're doing now?
And that's dangerous whenever people say like, "What do you do?" I'm like, stuff." and I run into other entrepreneurs and they're like, "Yeah, same. Where do I start?" But yeah, no, I live in Greeley, in Colorado. I've been here for 17 years and I've got a wife and kids who are 9 and 11, and they keep me on my toes and are just awesome. Um, and yeah, I got a background in film and video production, and I've been a programmer for forever, and now I'm an accidental serial entrepreneur, um, with kind of juggling three businesses right now.
That is a fun story to tell. I think a lot of people in America, at least, could speak to, are in the corporate world and probably dream about starting a business, but just don't know how to start. And I think a lot of stories are kind of just falling into things and things just happening at the right time. How did the first one start? How did you first start your first business?
Yeah, that's definitely like my story, right? Is it's like I started this thing and then it became a business, and actually all three of the businesses that I'm doing right now kind of hit at the same time, which was um, really weird. So let's see, Bike Shop Agency came out of, so I've been co-working for probably as long as I've been in Colorado. And so made a lot of great friendships in the co-working space that I've been here in Greeley. A lot of tech-minded folks. And out of that experience working with other companies doing software development came the brand Bike Shop Agency. And we use that to serve a lot of customers. And now Bike Shop Agency is mostly focused on building children's museum, like the interactive exhibits for children's museums. And that simply came about because it's something that sounded really exciting to me. And so I started asking around, and I asked an acquaintance at the time, and I said, "Hey, how do I get into this? Can you make some introductions?" And that is literally how that happened. The next stop was to go to a children's museum. And that first day, this doesn't happen, right? Like the first day, they were like, "Yeah, well, we've got a project that needs to be redone, and it sounds like it would be perfect for you." So that was Children's Museum of Denver back in 2019, and we did this whole redo of a big exhibit there, and then the pandemic kicked in. So it was like we had just upgraded this whole thing and put our heart and soul into building it, and then yeah.
No more
Just
visits.
and then no more visits. But what's really cool is that even though I shut down the museum for several years, like that exhibit that we built, I actually talked to the library staff or the staff at the museum yesterday, because it's still going strong, and it's really cool to build interactive things that just have a lot of longevity. So we're now what, 6 years into it. It's pretty great.
That's an interesting space. You probably don't think of that as one where you have a ton of SDRs calling into children's museums all the time and PE firms gobbling up children's museum designers and uh, kind of maybe expected that they would have a project for you walking in the door because it
Well,
doesn't seem like it would be competitive.
it is a really interesting thing. That world, I didn't know how it works, and there are companies that like they specialize in building exhibits for, say, museums or children's museums. So there are folks in that space, but it is pretty niche. And also within a lot of the museums, they hire staff that are essentially makers, and
Yep.
their job all day is to maintain and improve and build new exhibits for their museum. They'll get an idea. They'll say, "Hey, we'll pull in a couple of characters, a couple of designers or artists from this world over here," and then they put it all together, and that is how they're building exhibits, at least in the children's museum space. Whereas spent most of my time. It's really fascinating world.
And have you mostly focused within the one location, or have you started to approach other locations?
Yeah, no. So I've worked with San Diego Children's Museum, and I've worked with Denver Children's Museum, and then also built a children's museum in a library here in Greeley. So in a couple different places, and then we'll be headed out this summer to Indiana to build another children's museum out there.
And what does the business side of that look like?
Well, it's more like contract work, honestly. Subcontract work. It's like they hire me because I have this really strange breadth of knowledge around um, everything, and I bring creativity to the table. And so the folks that business really is mostly time and materials. Um, and I suppose at some level, when you start building museums and the group that you're working with becomes sought after, they can name their price.
And do you have
But
any,
most of it's one off.
is that you doing the work yourself, or you have a team working with you?
Yeah, I'll do a lot of the work myself, and then I have a few others that I will sub out to, or bring them on briefly as employees when those projects come about. Mhm.
Any really fun or important lessons or stories from the experience building the museum exhibits?
Well, I'll say that like my goal going into it and my heart going into building these exhibits was because I've been to so many museums where the exhibit is broken and you don't get that experience. It's like, oh, there's a thing here. It would be really cool to experience this interactive element, but it's broken. And and so my goal was to build stuff that has longevity, right? So I'm not going to build stuff that I think is going to break down or with components that I think might fail. And then I'm going to test it and test it and test it and see how it holds up. So that's my goal going into that. And even with that like goal, there's still stuff that requires some maintenance, right? Some updates. You can't just put it out there and then it's there running for 10 years reliably. Maybe you can. But with electronics, interactive stuff, that's a little bit less reliable. So a lot of the stuff that I built for this big project here, up here in Greeley, it was really exciting and it requires some maintenance. But if the institution that you're working with isn't committed to maintaining those things, it's kind of a crapshoot, right? You create something, you pour your heart into it, and then it can become abandoned by the people who take that over. And even if you want to maintain it and you want to upkeep it, it's just sometimes that happens. You cannot control that side of the thing, and it's a little bit different. I've built websites for years and years, and the challenge is you create these things, you pour so much of your time and effort into them for other people, and you never get to see the end users who get to experience that. And that's one of the things I love about the children's museum space is that I can wander around and I can actually see people experiencing it. But it's still that baby that you have to like give away to somebody else, and you don't have control over anymore. And so giving that up and just being like, yep, you did your best, you put it out there, and what happens happens to those creations.
So, in that regard, the maintenance, you're kind of speaking to the software on the project and any hardware related to it.
Sometimes it's turn it off and turn it back on again, right? It stopped responding. It's stuff like that, or change the light bulb, change the batteries. Um, that type of maintenance isn't that much effort. But sometimes it doesn't happen. Or, dust the machinery, clean it out.
That's so
Honestly.
fun. I mean, I've walked through museums before, and you just see the exhibits, but having these conversations makes you think about it in so much more depth about the builders behind it. I think you often can walk through exhibits and appreciate them, but you don't think about the effort putting into constructing them. The Denver Museum of Natural History is so cool. It's just enormous, and the amount of effort put into those exhibits probably was just monumental. And every time I drive past it and I see like 35 school buses. It's just like such a positive feeling. You're like, that's awesome. Those kids are probably having a great day.
And you probably don't think about the sheer number of people who come through a space like that and interact with a space like that. Like it can be hundreds, tens of thousands. It's a massive amount of people, and they create a lot of dirt and a lot of dust, and they touch things a lot. And so thinking about how do I build something that can hold up to, I mean, they don't even have to physically interact with something. It just can be people coming through the space create dust and create dirt, um, and that can have an impact on the appearance or the
Yeah.
functionality.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, every exhibit obviously is a lot different. You have ones that people can touch and can move, and some are behind a glass wall, and some are, um, projections. So everyone would obviously be different.
And every single one of those is a one-off creation, and typically, right? So you don't have that advantage of building something 100 times and getting it right. It's like you're building this thing, it's a one-off. It came out of somebody's head, and you're putting it into the space where potentially thousands of people are going to interact with it. How do you build it to be reliable?
Yeah, every project's going to be unique.
Hmm.
Everything's going to be greenfield. That's
Yeah.
pretty different.
Yeah. Museums love to have unique stuff.
Very cool. What's next with the project there? Do you plan to continue kind of pushing that, just get contract work here or there? What do you see as uh, the next step?
Yeah, I love doing that work so much, because it requires so much creativity from so many different angles. And I think that that's my core competency is just knowing a lot about a lot of things. And everything else you can find out on YouTube
Yeah.
or ChatGPT now. And so I love to be in that space, and I'll continue to be in that space. I think initially I was like, oh, this could be a big business. I'll have a team and we'll build stuff. And I suppose there could be that opportunity, but that doesn't appeal to me so much anymore. Just because like anything else, the projects are going to be far between. And when you have a big team, the budget has to go way up and the cost goes way up. And so that's just, as somebody who's worked for agencies, that doesn't feel very appealing right now.
Yeah, the industry itself is maybe not considered an industry. It's people trying to really enjoy what they do and provide a great experience, but it's not probably the most profitable enterprise. Maybe it
Yeah,
could
I
be.
mean,
I don't
there
know. I
could
don't.
be the
I,
other
I
world
wouldn't think
that I
so.
kind of dabbled in or have played around with. I have a business partner that I've worked with for years, and we're always kind of coming up with design ideas for interactive pieces of art that would go in different places.
So let's talk about your next project.
Yeah.
What else are you running?
I am running an accidental software SaaS product called Captional, and I am also uh, have a small internet service provider inside of an RV park, and those kind of landed, yeah, at the same time as well. And but they're very fun. I think that my efforts right now are really focused on building Captional, which is real-time captions for in-person events, and I should say it's captions and translation. So you can have a bilingual event where anybody who's in the audience can, on their phone, pull up the app and choose what language they want the event to be in, and it will show them on their screen in their language. Um, and that just seems like a world that needs to be explored more and grown more and reach more people, and that the technology is a place and that we can do that, and it's less expensive than historically. Even 2 years ago, you'd have to hire some people to do that translation for an event. And so yeah, I think there's just a huge opportunity in this space, and so that's where I'm spending most of my effort right now.
So
Um,
what does the end product look like? You have a speaker up at the podium, and the phone is listening to the speakers and just real-time translation. You're looking at your phone for the translation. Is the probably
Yeah,
way it would work?
probably the best way to explain it is where the origin of it was. I'm a technical director for my church, kind of in a volunteer capacity. And when we were doing renovations, we have this technology called hearing loop, and it is literal coil of wire that goes around the auditorium in the floor, and the hearing aid has a special antenna in it that picks up that transmission. But because it was installed incorrectly, it really only worked if you turned your head to the left, and otherwise it was unreliable. And as somebody who's seen a lot of tech assistive technologies for people who are hard of hearing, and seeing how sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, sometimes they're reliable. Uh, when we were at this point where we were like, okay, what are we going to do to replace this technology? I was like, well, why don't we just caption? Why don't we just provide captions? Everybody puts captions on their TVs, and that's something people can understand. And so I went out looking for that product because that's my first approach to anything. It's like, if this is a great idea, someone has already done it, and I could not find it. Um, so I built it just for my little organization. And essentially what it is it's a one to many. So we have a device, we have the one side of the app is captioning, is capturing the audio and converting it into captions, and then the other is the viewer experience, and the viewer sees those captions in real time and then can choose to have it translated into whatever language as well. So it came out of the hard of hearing, but then we tacked on translation and realized that that really was the key feature, like you do.
And the product exists, you're using it?
Yeah. So over the last 2 years, we've been developing it. I pulled in some of my friends as co-founders to continue to develop it, and so we're adding features and actively working on marketing. And we have, I think right now we have 26 active users that are using it, and most folks, I say about 50% of our customers pay for a year in advance when they sign up. And once they start using it, most customers stick around because it's something that like most of our customers are churches. And so people rely on that every single Sunday when they come to church.
Very cool. And then the translation aspect, are you going to build that through a LLM API, or are you going to kind of just build a translation engine, or how do you expect to do that?
Yeah, so all of the translation and transcription is running through third-party APIs. I think that I am not a big fish that's going to try to tackle that problem. And I think that there's millions of dollars that are being thrown at solving the problem of transcription and also accuracy in that space and translation. And so I can do a much better job of creating tools that utilize those APIs. And maybe someday we have enough, we're capturing enough data that we can create our own. But that's kind of where we are right now. Is it's just like, I'm not going to bother. I'm going to pay for a third party API and I'm going to focus on developing a really useful tool.
Yeah, I think that's the purpose of those APIs. People want them, the companies want them to people, they want people to use them as tools. They are tools. And
Mhm.
so you don't need to reinvent the wheel. That's
Yeah.
if it's
And
already
then,
built and that's a complex problem that a huge team builds and you're just using it, then that seems like the right way to go.
and I've built my tools to be kind of API agnostic. So if somebody comes out with a better API or a better API at a lower cost, I'll just flip the switch and use somebody else. So I'm building those tools to be able to not get like stuck with Amazon or DeepL or Assembly AI, or Google Translate, for example. There's just like tons of services out there that are building APIs, and I can just switch between them.
I love DeepL. I used that when I lived in Germany, and it was so effective, so much better than Google Translate. If you use Google Translate, or if you did in 2018, everyone knew you were using Google Translate. But if you use DeepL, I call it DeepL.
Mhm.
If you use DeepL, it was native almost. It didn't have the Bavarian dialect in there, but it was Hochdeutsch. It was correct High German grammar and everything. So I didn't know about that until I moved there, and then one of the Indians that I worked with introduced me to it. Like, this is the much better translation tool. Use this.
Yeah, and I think that like I only speak English, and that is probably my biggest weakness is like I'm developing a translation app, and I couldn't tell you how good or bad it is, and I have to rely heavily on other people to give me feedback in that space.
Linguistics is a crazy world. These people are incredibly educated. They go through so many years of school and they're paid almost nothing. We contracted some people at a very large tech company in my previous role for translation, and you'd be looking for a master's minimum in linguistics in a very specific language in the corner of Africa or the
Wow.
corner of Saudi Arabia. This is just like different dialects for each language in different regions, or multiple in one region, and you need to find a linguistics expert that's native in that language to translate appropriately. And they're making like 30 to 40 an hour max, and the
Yeah.
people building the tools, software engineers, are making 300K, and less engine or less education to some extent, and
Hmm.
it's a real interesting world. Linguistics is not something I ever knew about until I worked on those roles. I think that's a really fun benefit of the career I've been a part of, is just seeing so many other people's careers and also hosting this podcast, understanding what other people do in their career. It's just there's so many people that go in different directions, and those
Yeah, it
stories are
sounds
so
like
fun.
you might actually know more about that world than I do. Because I really like I haven't worked with very many human translators. I've had folks who do that and have reviewed my stuff. But yeah, that's a whole world. I know that when I started researching like real-time translation for events, you're looking at $150 an hour um, or more to have somebody human who's doing that
Doing
that
it
I guess
live.
interpreting into another language.
Yeah, the lot. I mean, that's what they do at the UN. I think they put on those things,
They
and
put on a little
everyone has
thing.
their own translator. And I would guess the translators are probably in a box with the audio coming
They're
in.
in a
And
little booth in the back.
yeah, there has to be. What else? What other way? It's probably not going to switch to software for a while, I would imagine, because you would need that very specific understanding of the leader's dialect that's learning or listening. I'm kind of curious on what the process for getting into those would be. You got to start pitching your product to the UN.
I mean,
Big fish first.
yeah, when you look at like AI, it's incredibly impressive, and then you still look at this linguistics, and you're just like, oh my gosh, there is such a huge hurdle here, and I'm sure that like as somebody who's translating, they're listening to what's being said, and they can anticipate what's going to be said. They can anticipate what's the end of the sentence, because sometimes you have to hear the complete statement to have enough context to actually know how to translate that. And that's a
Definitely.
big challenge we have is like, well, how soon do I start applying a translation to what's being said? Because if it's too early, there's not enough context to be accurate, um, especially in many different languages. And other times it's like, but you also want it to be as quick as possible, and because you don't want the user waiting around 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds to understand what was said. There's a lot to catch up with.
Yeah, I think that would be inevitable with AI as well. You have to wait. You could start to predict kind of what people would be saying, but you definitely would need to wait until the sentence ends. And different languages are obviously very different in how they
Hmm.
structure the sentence and how they structure language. So it would be different for each one,
For every
depending
single
on who the
one.
speaker was.
Yeah. And it's like, how do you, I'm sure that folks who are working on this problem are thinking, are yeah, thinking through all of those possible challenges to build an accurate AI model. Um, but yeah, but there's also those two steps, right? As first is you have to transcribe what's being said, and then you have to apply a translation. Because you don't, I mean, can you imagine an AI that goes from audio to audio? It's
I don't know
like,
if it's there yet.
right? Right now, everything is two steps.
Yeah.
first you transcribe what's said by the speaker, then you translate it, and then maybe you could have text to speech that speaks what was translated.
Yeah.
And there's 4 steps in there that you get less and less accuracy.
To go on a real tangent, I wonder if there's a future where an AI invents like an Esperanto, where it's the ideal language for human communication. And then we all have to learn the AI language, and it just makes life way easier for everyone. That's the Tower of Babel, you know, that's
What
when
we
God
would
comes
sound
in
like
and says,
modem,
nope.
like old dial-up modems.
Yeah. Actually, that is a real thing where the AI developed its own language to talk to itself. And I think Google pulled the plug when it started doing that. It was starting to communicate in a way that the human engineer couldn't understand, and they turned it off, I believe. I think that's a true story.
I like had only seen that as a meme, so that's shocking.
I think that happened a while ago, actually. Yeah, it started to communicate. I don't know if it was communicating with another AI. I think it was just the one that they were building, but you can see what it's thinking. Like when you watch those prompts, if you do deep research on OpenAI, you can watch what it's doing. Like it'll tell you what it's doing, how it's thinking, and the processing. And I think they were watching something like that, and then it wasn't discernible. It had kind of invented a more efficient way for it to think.
Yeah.
It's
there
coming. It's coming. That
there
was a
are
while ago too. That was not recently. So
yeah.
similar things have probably happened. I'm excited for all the whistleblowers to come out and eventually talk about what happened in the AI wars of
Oh my
2025.
gosh. And there are days when I interact with, right? I ask ChatGPT for the answer to a question or solve this problem, and I'm like, ooh, yeah, we're not there. You can see where it is so far from being human, or being thought, having advanced thought, and it feels like, okay, I'm just talking to an advanced search engine. And then there's other days where it does something creepy, and you're like, help me understand how this happened.
It's so recognizable right now. Like everyone's talking
Hmm.
to the same model, and so you, even if it's, you know, people are prompting with different things, it's still the same quote unquote person or model
Yeah.
speaking back to everybody. And so it's very easy to see when things have gone through ChatGPT. And it's not just the M dash. People are currently just very angry about the M dash becoming more prominent, or people that
Yeah.
already use the M dash, just like myself. You
Yeah.
know, I already use those. Now I can't use them because people think I'm using GPT, but
Right. Yeah.
it is very it has a very specific voice. You
Yeah. I'm
know,
like,
you're not.
please leave out the emojis and the horizontal lines. I I don't need to.
They do emojis. I use emoji. Honestly, I think there's some science to the LinkedIn post with emoji, LinkedIn without, the virality or more people seeing it, and less text. I mean, emojis are a version of language.
Mhm.
You know, there's symbols that represent something. That's what a word is too. You know, it's symbols that represent something. So I'm not against using them professionally. You know, there's definitely an argument to be made that maybe we can leave them out of professional environments,
Yeah.
but it is still language. You know, it's a symbol that represents what you're trying to convey.
So maybe we should work emojis into Captional.
That's not a bad idea, especially if someone is, you know, looking at their phone and the speaker is laughing, you
Hmm.
know, or the speaker is really angry. You put an emoji that the AI understands that the person is speaking with emotion.
I'm writing this down. Future features. Add emojis to Captional.
That would be pretty funny. The speaker starts speaking with emoji, you'd be like laughing emoji.
Hmm.
Oh, that's good. I like that. That's a very interesting product.
Yeah.
Seems like a no-brainer. You could even work it into your exhibits. You know, people coming into exhibit that don't speak the language of what it's the speaker. You know, obviously you could probably have a translate button on there too. But if you could have it connect to the phone at the opening of or at the entrance of the museum, and you can jump on your app and just walk around and it connects to the exhibits. Yeah, that
I
seems like
mean, yeah, imagine if you're a tour guide giving a multilingual tour, that kind of fills the gaps for anybody who doesn't speak. And even if like English is your second language or Spanish is your second language, but it still fills in the gaps when you miss, oh, what was said. Or if you're in a large group and you're kind of hard of hearing, you don't even have to be hard of hearing. But the acoustics in rooms are problematic. So being able
yeah.
to look down and catch up on what was said, or if you're ADD like me and you just checked out because, because you saw a squirrel, you can go back and review what was said in the last 30 seconds so you can, stay kept up. But yeah, I think there's going to be a million places where this technology can be utilized. And the key is to build the tools the best to give it instant accessibility, make it really easy to use and as accurate as possible. So we can put this in every auditorium, every live venue, every airport. There's huge potential here for improving communication, which as our world becomes, uh, you know, more connected, more languages, we need those. Now, in the United States, yeah, I have a friend who just moved to Spain. He's like, everywhere else except for the United States is multilingual, and so you need to be developing this for other countries as well. And so I think that's a big part of what we're going to be doing as well.
And do you have a working product?
Oh yeah, it's at caption.al. Mm-hmm.
And what is your current business model of selling?
We have right now an unlimited plan that's $50 a month. And that is our only plan. But eventually we will be upscaling and adding additional features to provide more opportunities and uh, and and more different plans because we really need that 3 tier kind of thing. But like SaaS startups, we are just trying to get the product out there as quickly as possible, develop the tools that make it sticky, and make it reliable. Because I mean, you can imagine just one opportunity that you open the app and it doesn't work. That sucks. So we're focusing on reliability, but also adding features and getting stuff out as quickly as possible, even when it's not polished. And so that's really the focus of our startup, and then getting feedback from our customers. And so kind of fallen by the wayside is building additional tiers. But we also needed more information from our customers. How are they using it? How many hours are they using it? What is our cost per customer to use it? Um, and we're gathering that data now. I think we do. I think the last time I checked, 150 hours a week of transcription. Is that about right?
I think you give it away for free to events for like the first 200 users at the event, and then the event person has a QR code at the beginning, downloads this app for live captions in your language, and then you have all these people downloading your app, and then the event manager is going to be managing a lot of events,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
if their event is more than 100, 250, whatever it may be, then they pay the high tier.
Right. Then
And
we
then they
jump
pay
up
per
to
user
yeah.
at the event or something.
Yeah, so I think we'll probably legacy the customers we currently have, and then we'll start adding, because now that we know the average usage and the average cost per customer, we'll add some additional tiers that set the number of languages that you can, because it costs me more for language, for every
Yeah.
language that you're transcribing to. So set the maximum number of languages for a session, the maximum number of viewers per session, and then increase that. And that's a really fair way to create some additional tiers there. And then we've got additional behind the scenes tools that we're developing to capture the whole event and then be able to reread it, retranscribe it after the fact, because live is just not as accurate as a post transcription.
Of course.
So being able to post transcribe it and then also feed it into one of these language models like ChatGPT, so people can ask questions about what happened at the event, what was said, that kind of stuff. So you can build all of that out into the system.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, what's on the near horizon?
The our top priority right now is the reporting for the customers so they can see how many users and how many languages per the event. And then also we're looking at f- um the connection between transcribing and translating. Right now it's um a little bit slow. And so we're looking at additional ways for us to analyze what was transcribed and find ways to send that off for translation more quickly. And then as we get more context, um, we retranscribe or translate so we can update what was translated. So we can give the user as quickly as possible what was said and then fix it as we go along so that if there's a mistake, that can be pushed out there too. So I think then that might be one of our key differentiators
Yeah,
is
that makes
just that
complete sense.
that
And that'll get better as the model that your API is
Mhm.
connected to gets better, probably, I'd imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. So working on that translation piece is going to be our is currently our kind of behind the scenes focus as we're doing um, just just lots of experiments to see how best to bridge that gap.
So, how many hours a week are you putting on this?
Me personally, I think I've got
Or
other
the team?
businesses to manage, but I'm probably spending 40 hours a week right now on Captional.
Very
hmm
cool.
It's nice to have the RV fiber business. It's paying my bills, and keeping my head above water so that I can focus on this.
Can we transition to RV fiber? I think that's a
Sure.
fun story too.
Yeah.
So, just introduction to my experience in RVs, zero until 2 years ago. My wife's grandfather passed away, and he had an awesome RV that he was living in his sunset years, and he gave it, what do you say, bequeathed? So he put it in his will for
Yeah.
his son, and that's my father-in-law, and we've visited them at quite a few RV parks since, and it's just an awesome culture. I did
hmm
listen to Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights book, and he does that in between movies, or at least he did when he would had his few successful movies. That he would sign a contract, get a big cash amount, and just go on a road trip and talk to people. And as a celebrity, if you're in an RV as a celebrity RV park, it's not like being in LA as a celebrity. You're just another person. You know, people talk to you, you listen to them, they listen to you, and you're just another person with his experience. And that's been my experience too. People are so friendly, and it's a really cool American culture. Maybe they do it everywhere, but I have only experienced it in America. So, what do you do with RV parks?
This is something that I completely fell into, was not like kind of, I did not have my eye on this. And it was simply that, let's see here, it would have been in 2021, I want to say, that I have this other past where I had a drone business that started back in 2013. So flying drones was a whole thing that a startup that I did for years. But back then, back in 2021, I think it was, there was a barista that I knew. And her uncle needed photos of an RV park that they were building. And I went out there and took drone photos so they could see, I guess, where I don't know where the plumbing was or something. And so I took all those photos for them. And as I'm, leaving, I'm like, well, okay, so building an RV park, there's tons of technology that you have to manage. How are you gonna do that? And they said, well, we don't know. And I said, well, do you need a technical consultant? Because I could do that. And so that was the start of a wonderful opportunity. Again, a time when I just asked. I just said, "Hey, is this a thing I can do for you?" And so, as they were building the RV park, I became the technical consultant, and I was probably working 30 hours a week on the other advantage I had was that I was local, so I could bring in all sorts of local contractors that I knew. But solving all of these problems that you wouldn't think when you're like starting up a business, like an RV park, that's a major project. I mean, you got to have a website, you got to have a Google local page, you got to have 100 other things, you got to run ads. We needed gate access codes, and how do you unlock doors with access codes, and we needed security cameras. So all of those problems, I became the point person on solving. So interviewing potential contractors, bringing contractors to the table, evaluating different software. I can do that really well. I can interview these different software companies because we need software to run the RV park. So I did all of that, and along the way, we realized that we had a problem, which is that we have all these smart meters in the RV park that are sub-metering the guests' um, electrical usage, so they can be billed for that, which is becoming more prevalent now in the RV park industry because electricity costs money, and some rigs can use a lot of electricity.
Some rigs
And
are coming in, brand new off the lot, just sucking up all the power.
yeah, I mean, you got a rig that's like, what, 47, 50 feet long. It's got 3 air conditioners on board. They're
It's a
pull,
house.
but it's a house on wheels, and they're racking up $300, $350 in electricity in a month. But if you try to distribute that among the other 200 customers in the park, like that's not right because you got somebody, mom and pop, in a little camp pop-up camper. Now their rates are going to go up. So
They're burning coal and they're
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just know because I help with all this stuff now as like we get customers who spend $60 a month and we have customers who spend $360 a month on electricity. And the ones who spend $360 a month, they're like, "Yep, that's right. I used a lot of electricity." And the ones who use $60 a month, they're like, "Holy smokes, this is expensive." Because you've got both ends of the, economic spectrum there, right? People who live there because it's affordable housing, people who live there because they're visiting their son at college and they drove up in their $500,000 rig, and it was the best place to go. So so back to the problem. We've got electrical meters, and it was COVID times, so we don't have the meters that we want. We have different kind of meters, and they work great, but they all need internet access. So now we need a network infrastructure that goes through the park, and the customer also wants security cameras through the park. So we need a bigger network infrastructure that goes to the park. The ground is open, so let's put an additional conduit and let's just do it right, pull fiber through the whole park. So I built this whole plan, found subcontractors to do the work and to put in the infrastructure, figured out all the details there, and also said, how are we going to do internet in the park for customers? And the owners were like, I don't know, the people just figure it out on their own. And I said, I don't think that's right. And I started to do the research. And I said, what do most parks do for internet access? Well, they put up Wi-Fi on poles or in trees, and some of them are really proud of their Wi-Fi systems. But if you ask the customers that go to the RV parks, the Wi-Fi sucks. That is the overall sentiment, as they say. Wi-Fi sucks. I don't know where I've been to, and sometimes they'll say like I've been to 2 parks in all my travels that had good Wi-Fi. Otherwise, it sucks. So I started developing a system. I said, well, maybe I could be like, maybe we could do like an internet service provider situation and provide a premium internet experience in the RV park. Towards the end of construction, the owners of the company said, this kind of just over our heads and a little bit too much for us to manage the network side of things. So we don't think we're going to do it. And this is after we've put in a ton of the infrastructure. And I thought about it and I said, I had done a lot of the research about being an ISP, and I thought maybe I could pull this off. Maybe I could do it. So yeah, I mortgaged my house and paid for the build out within the park, and essentially made it a business. I did make it a business, not even essentially. It is a business that I run then in the RV park, where I am the managed service provider for the park. So all their technology, everything, like anything with internet or networking or their phones, their computers, even down to the software that they use to manage the business. Like if they have questions or issues, it comes to me and I solve those problems. So I'm their managed service provider. And then also for the guests in the park, I'm the internet service provider. So a
So they
guest
pay,
come
the guest pays you.
guest pays me. Yeah. Well, to be clear, it is an amenity of the park. And so they pay the park does all of the billing for me and then just writes me a check for the internet customers from the previous month. So we just do a little audit every month and send them an invoice. And and the way that I do that different is like every site in the park has its own dedicated internet hookup. And I provide then to the guest a router and an Ethernet cable. And they're already set up. So the guest doesn't have to do any setup. They just put the box in their RV, run the cable, plug it in, turn it on, and then they've got gig speed internet in their RV, which is unheard of. And I've learned something, which is the bottleneck in all of these RV parks where they insist the Wi-Fi on the pole works great, and they will insist. Um, Here's the analogy. Imagine you're at a restaurant, you're sitting in a booth, everybody's sitting in a booth, and instead of a server coming over to them and taking their order, everybody's sitting in the booth screaming at the person at the bar, telling them their order. That's what RV park Wi-Fi is like. So in my system, it's we put the router inside the RV. Every antenna that's in every device in that RV that connects to the Wi-Fi turns down. They have like it uses less power. It's like I can see the router. I don't need to scream. I can talk to that. And so you've removed the bottleneck, which is that physical distance, the walls, the ceiling, all of those things that the Wi-Fi signal has to get through to get to that router that's outside. Maybe it's 50, 60, 100 feet away. And you've put the access point inside the RV, and then you don't have issues of other RVs Wi-Fi screaming over top of it. You don't have all these devices competing. Because what'll happen is you'll have somebody who says, well, yeah, the internet works great at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but at 5 to 8, it just sucks. It's unusable. And that's when everybody comes home. Everybody tries to, watch Netflix or get their email or whatever. It's because you've got all these devices trying to access that one access point outside. So it turns out that what RV parks don't realize, the money they're leaving on the table, is that people will pay for reliability. They will pay for knowing that every time they turn the device on, they have a high-speed, reliable internet connection. And
What is the cost if someone wants to hook up?
so we have daily, weekly, and monthly rates. The monthly rate is $100 a month. Daily rate I think is $4.95 right now, and then there's a weekly rate that's I think $27.95. So
That's
I
brilliant. I mean,
yeah.
that's cheaper than Starlink, or it matches Starlink for the monthly rate, I think.
Yeah, so Starlink is going up, and I think if you're
I think it's 100 a
stationary,
month.
it's 100 a month, but I think it's 150 if you have if you're in an RV and you're moving about.
Really?
So yeah, it's 150, 160, and it also depends on how much data you use.
Yeah, it's not
Um,
fiber.
and right now, like all the guests in my park, they don't care how much data they use. We go through almost a terabyte of data a day. Because it doesn't matter, right? They've all got security cameras that are streaming all the time. They're watching TV. People leave the television on 24/7. It doesn't matter.
Does the
Uh,
cost not go up with fiber for usage?
mm-mm. I mean, we have a gigabit connection to the park, a commercial gigabit network connection, and there's no limit.
So that will always be enough.
Mhm. Yeah, so that's another misconception, and I'm giving away the secret sauce here, but everybody thinks you need a gigabit network connection, right? And there are maybe like 1% of the time that would matter, and it's when you're downloading uh, an 800 gig video game off the internet, right? But otherwise, really, internet use is just like sipping. So if I have 75 customers in the park that are using the internet, I'll see like a max of 250 megabits per second download. So we're using at peak 25% of the total capacity. And that's something that people don't realize is like the internet works like this. Give me this thing. Okay, I got it. Thanks. I'm done. Give me this thing. Okay, I'm got it. I'm done. And so the biggest um, internet user usage is from streaming television, and Netflix is going to be between like 6 and 10. And so on a gigabit connection, uh, you will have 1,000 TVs
Yeah.
or 100 TVs at the same time, right? And so that's what people don't realize is like the bottleneck is usually the Wi-Fi. It's usually not the internet connection.
That's awesome. I mean, you're clearly improving the experience. And of course, there's a value to that. And it seems like it would be a successful model where you could sell to more customers. What would be your capacity to onboard new customers?
You mean like how many customers can I have at Evans RV Park where I am now?
No, how many RV parks?
Oh, I mean, there's no limit there, right? The limitation is the RV parks having the understanding, the vision to build out this kind of infrastructure.
You have to essentially talk to them before they start wiring everything. So you want new
Mhm.
construction. You're not
You
really
want
going to go
new
to a new
construction,
build.
or you want somebody who's buying a park and closed it down so that they can rework it.
Wants to
I
level
think that
up.
there are ways that you could do like a kind of like a point-to-point wireless kind of deal, and then still put the customer's router inside their RV. So there's other ways to do it, but I mean, fiber is just so stinking reliable.
Yep.
It just works. We've been running for 2 years now, and it's just like it just goes and goes, and it's incredibly fast. I mean, it's like we've got security cameras that are on the other side of the RV park. They're 2,000 feet away, but they might as well be in the same room because there's no latency.
Yeah, it's light speed basically.
A little slower than light speed, but still, yeah.
It's how fast is it? It's
I want to say fiber is like a quarter light speed
or light
because
speed.
it's
Not
moving
gonna
through
cut
that
it.
medium.
Too slow.
So, well, that's okay. People don't realize this, but wireless is still faster than fiber. And so if you can get it, there are certain places
If
where if
there's
you,
no blockage in between.
yeah, right, like if you can relay the messages fast enough, um, it's still faster. But fiber, yeah, very very reliable.
Very
Very
cool.
good. And like I had a customer who moved into the park, 2 days ago, and I went out and talked to him, and he had moved from Texas. He was looking for a place, wanted to be down in Colorado Springs, but just couldn't find a place that had what we have, and moved to Evans RV Park because he knew that he would have reliable internet connection, because he's a gamer and a live streamer, and it was like, all right, dude, enjoy. People who come there for work. I got a customer who does like phone support, and she has to have a voice over IP phone from the company that she works for, and is required to have a wired connection. And I don't know where else you're going to get a wired connection inside of an RV park,
Yeah, I
unless you have
suspect
this kind of infrastructure.
it's going to be not necessarily a large percentage of RV park visitors, but there is probably a niche RV park uh, people that use them often that definitely want this.
Mhm.
Like, definitely will plan their trips by who has the best internet connection.
Mhm.
And a lot of people will travel and maybe not even want an internet connection. They're like, I want to be off. But there's
Right.
definitely a group that will plan their trip based on the internet
I mean, if
capacity.
you're like a CEO of a company, right, you want to take the weekend off, but you still want to be able to be reached, then knowing that you could be off grid, but you still have a reliable connection. You
Have you
can use
seen the
Starlink,
bump?
but hmm?
Have you seen the bump at Evans yet, due to the word of mouth or people sharing?
Yeah, since we've opened, first year was a little bit rough. It still, made money, but then we're up 30% every year. So this year the customers came in so much earlier than last year that kind of we're open all year round, but there is a slump during the winter. And so, but this year it just came so much earlier, that rush. And so we'll be closer to full, um, as full as we've ever been. And it just keeps going up. And we see people come back, and people who come back or get the internet service when they're back, um, pretty consistently.
Awesome.
Mhm.
I think that with all three of your businesses, my lesson to listeners or people that might be considering to start a business or something that they might be interested in is what problem is obviously needing to be solved in whatever aspect of life you're in, and just ask, can I solve
Right.
that problem? And if you're interested in that problem and you think you have the capability to solve it, go after it. Is it any other, or would you double down on that, or what business lessons have you learned since you kind of took on these problems?
Yeah, that is interesting. I like, yeah, I just literally asked for the opportunities that I'm doing right now. But I would say, like, as a there, there's this plaque um at the RV park that says, like, if you're chasing two rabbits, they'll both get away. And that is the period of life that I feel like I'm in right now. And so I have several business coaches, and just talking through, like, what are you doing with Captional? What are you doing with RV Fiber? What are you doing with the Children's Museum stuff? And how are you going to manage and get all those done? And it's like, well, I don't have enough income right now to hire other people to do those jobs. Uh, but the RV park, for the most part, runs itself. Takes maybe 5 hours a week, and so and I look at Captional, I say this has hockey stick growth kind of potential, and I really want to explore that. And I would kick myself if I did not explore that opportunity fully. That would suck, right? To just see somebody else fill that space because I didn't work hard enough or fast enough. I didn't fill. I didn't take that opportunity seriously. And so the RV park also, that industry is slow. It is slow to change. It is slow to pivot. It is owned by a lot of mom and pops. And so setting those priorities, I think, looking forward, I'm saying, I'm going to continue to pick away at the RV park industry and continue to set the standard for the best reliable internet connection. Like, this is the way internet should be. RVs need to come with a port on the outside to plug in the frickin' internet. Let's stop wiring them up from front to back with coax cable, because that is not the future. Why are we still doing that? We need to educate the RV parks. We need to educate the consumer. We need to educate the industry that's building products for the RVs. That's going to be a long and slow process, and I'm going to keep chipping away at that. And but I'm not actively seeking out RV parks to wire them up. And if they come, and they probably will come as I'm educating folks, that will happen. But really, like, my focus right now is really focused on growing Captional. And the big challenge that I have right now in both spaces is I need somebody who can own the marketing side of things. As an entrepreneur, we learn to do whatever we need to do to get the job done, right? And it's like, I'll go to ChatGPT, or I'll go to YouTube to learn that skill, or I'll listen to podcasts like Startups for the Rest of Us, and learn those skills that I need to, like, take on the next challenge in the business. I've just realized that marketing, like, I can do it, but somebody else who can focus fully on it would do so much better than I can do.
Yep.
And I can focus on engineering, which is engineering and meeting with the customers and finding out what they want within their product. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now, is learning to prioritize, setting something aside and saying, I know how I'm going to put that on. I know how I'm going to manage that in the meantime, and I'm going to really focus on and remind myself to keep focusing on the product that I think has the most potential, which is Captional at this point. So that's where I'm at. And I should mention, because I don't think I did, but, like, software is my background,
Yeah.
and so I understand the development in the software world. And if I wasn't a software engineer person, like, and I was on the marketing end, finding engineers to do software development is just really, really challenging.
That's what I do. So, and yes, it is challenging, even when you do it as a career.
Yeah. I was listening to Startups for the Rest of Us, the latest episode. They were like, yeah, if you're a non-technical founder, like finding somebody to be your technical founder, you're just and or hiring an agency, like you got a 50-50 chance that it's just going to be a disaster
Yeah.
to get your product or your app or whatever developed. So
Seems
thankfully I
like
have that.
the RV marketing or the sales would just be like clear intent focused where you could have a signal that hits and you would get an email or they would get an email. So if a RV park sells, then you contact the buyer automated, or if an RV park is closed, you have
Right.
something out there that sees that it's closed, and then you would you would try to build that connection. You can probably automate all of that pretty easily.
Put an autoresponder in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like when you buy a house, you suddenly get all these emails for home warranty and all these landscaping and windows, and it all comes in. It's like, congrats on your new house, and someone's not doing that manually. That's automatic, and so you would just have those signals ready. And I think if a business sells, like an RV park would sell, that would be trackable, and you would be able to pretty automatically have that, and then you can just send them a link to a case study and be like, hey, this is what I've done here, and if it's something you would just be interested in talking about, let's have, coordinate a conversation.
Yeah.
But the Captional, I mean, yeah, a SaaS startup is so different, and it's quite admirable to take on quite a few things at once. I think you're living a lot of people's dream, though. You're finding things that you're interested in. You're living quite creatively and making it work. I think a lot of people are very intimidated by that challenge and their ability to make it work.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship is not a guaranteed road to millionaire.
Mhm.
It's hard, and it takes a lot of guts, and I think that's quite admirable.
And I'm terrible at setting goals. And that is a big part of this, is it's just like measuring your growth and setting goals and recharting the path and getting up every morning and going, okay, this used to be really exciting and now it's a slog. How am I going to keep that energy of entrepreneurship? And what am I going to do today? Because there's a million things here to do. How am I going to pick the thing that's urgent or the thing that's important over the thing that's urgent to keep this growth curve going?
Yeah.
So it is my biggest challenge, and I live by my Motion app, which you put in all your tasks, and it has AI that organizes it for you, and literal paper checklists. Like you
Yeah, I like
just
those.
have to write it down and cross it off, and then you feel that sense of accomplishment. It's like, okay, I did get things done today. And I've started a new ritual, which is that I actually tear the page out from my notebook, and when the tasks are done, I put it on a pile. And that stack gets higher and higher and higher. And even when I have to like take things from the list and write it on the next day's list, like that stack gets higher and higher and higher. And I go, okay, look, I have done all of these tasks. I have accomplished all of this stuff, and I have made all of this movement. When you just feel like everything runs at a snail's pace.
It's an agile board. You get move
Mhm.
things to the done pile. You see how much you get done.
Yeah, and there's in multiple places. We've got a Jira board for our for Captional, where it's just like, oh yeah, the tasks went in the done pile, but you have to check that backlog. It gets bigger and bigger, and then you have to remind yourself all the things that you've done.
Very cool. Anything else you wanted to cover?
Yeah, so let's see here. No, I think I said I said all the things I had to say, you know.
I
Um,
definitely will notify my father-in-law about Evans RV Park
Evans
and
RV
have
Park.
him add it to the destination list. And I'll bring my PS5 and download the biggest game there is to test your.
I welcome that, and I know there are folks who come and they're like, well, we had 800 gigs of photos that we haven't backed up because we've been just, you know, uh, we've been boondocking all this time and using a 5G hotspot, but now that we have unlimited internet, let's just back up everything to the cloud. So yes, I welcome that. Come and use the super reliable fast internet
That's
and play
great.
some games or whatever. But yeah, I think, you know, um, yeah, I would say that as an entrepreneur, it is very difficult, especially with a family and kids, to 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 step out of your entrepreneur venture and be present in those other spaces of your life. And it's probably, you know, it's a good thing that I have a family because otherwise I would work till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Like that is my sweet spot, right? It's like start working at 8 o'clock at night. I can get so much programming done. And I would lose track of time and I'd be working till 2 a.m. And then I get a text from my wife and she's like, it's time to come home. And so those are the things that are keeping me grounded. And I'm super grateful for that. And I just like want to remind people who are entrepreneurs, if you're young and you don't have a family, that's a huge opportunity to just go explore and do your entrepreneurial venture. But, you know, if you're not, I think it's a wonderful thing to have those people ground you. You might feel like you're going slower than you want to go, but stay connected and stay engaged there and set that a priority, put it on your calendar, make sure you do that thing. Make sure you are investing in your family and when you put it on the calendar, be there. You have to schedule it sometimes, but be there. So, yes, those are my
That's awesome.
closing
And
words.
add Evans RV Park to your vacation
And
schedule.
put Evans RV. You know, it's not really a vacation spot.
Oh, a 2 year RV. To all my listeners with RVs.
But if you need to visit Northern Colorado because you're visiting your kid in college,
There you go.
or if you're working on a pipeline out here, it is still a very beautiful spot and it's nice and quiet and it has a big park uh, on the south side with you know, acres and miles of
Within
running
driving
trails
distance of an awesome children's museum.
within yeah. And you know, you can run an hour to Denver or you can run an hour up to Estes Park and go play. There's just lots to do. Come to
There you
Greeley, drink our coffee. We have many coffee shops.
go. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Philip, thanks for coming on,
No,
peeking. I
thanks, Wyatt.
really appreciate hearing your story, and I'm excited to see Captional's journey. Seems like a product that is necessary
Hmm.
and it has market fit. It's just about building and spreading it out there. So
We shall find out. Yeah.
hopefully this will help.